We open the doors to Elliot's loft, and that opens. We kind of find things, lit up a little bit. We have to push a few buttons, kind of get things set. Some things take a little while to warm up, but when it does, we bring forth another episode of When Black Men Talk, and that's what we're going to do with this particular episode. I want to thank you for always giving us an ear. We appreciate you doing so. And this episode is going to be a little different, just a tad different. I was having a conversation with a person I'm going to introduce in a little bit. And she said to me, you need to have somebody come on that show that's married and give a different opinion. And I said, that's a good idea. Then I thought about it. I said, realistically, the marriage part is good, but in reality, a balanced idea is even better. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to basically, from this point on, have a segment of When Black Men Talk called Finding Common Ground. And when you hear Finding Common Ground, you're going to hear Miss Jenora comes on and speak. So at this time, I'm going to welcome you to, for the first time on When Black Men Talk, and won't be the last, to Miss Jenora. Miss Jenora, how are you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Happy to have you here.
Yes. Excited to be here.
I want to take you back to what you said to me, because you said, basically, I need to have someone on the show that's married and bring a little balance. And I want you to basically, you gave it to me, but now I want you to give it to everyone else, basically what you meant when you said that.
Well, when I was listening to the show, I hear a lot of men talking, and, it sounds like a bunch of single men, giving single advice to each other. And I said, well, there's nobody married on there. It's kind of around these guys a little bit, because it just said to me, it sounded like a bunch of guys thinking they were like teenagers in their 20s again, but they're older. They have that, to me, you had that at that program, the mindset was that way.
Ooh, okay. Now, it's interesting you said the mindset of 20s, and we, our feelings aren't hurt. Trust me here. We're as men, we should have thick skin. So I'm glad in a way you said that, but I want you to go a little deeper with that. When you say the 20-year-old, of a mind of a 20-year-old, what were you actually hearing, and how are you pinpointing that?
Well, I say in the 20s, because around that age, men are just getting out, they're dating, and they're not really taking life that serious, and they're not really looking towards the future. And it just sounded like these are older guys still going back in those days, and you're not that age anymore, and you should be taking life a little more seriously.
Okay. Now, with that being said, I'm wondering, and I hear that. I can hear how you could kind of get to that. But did you catch her, or did it sound to you sometimes they might be saying some things that they experience that they have kind of dealt with throughout the course of their life, relationships and outside of relationships?
Yes, I've heard that. The relationships, that they were going through, but those relationships aren't anymore. So they seem like they're dwelling on these old relationships. But there are a lot of women out there that are just waiting on these men to grow up a little bit and, take the reins.
Okay. And I like that. Waiting for men to grow up a little bit.
Mm.
I like that, because when you say grow up a little bit, yeah, let's go with that. What is growing up a little bit sounds like? What does it look like?
Well, what they say, well, men, their carnal minds don't really mature until they're like 25 or so.
Hmm.
Women's is a little before that. So it's like they're still trying to catch up, but they're stuck.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
It's interesting you said they're stuck, and we talked a little bit about their past relationships, because I've always said this, and I've always felt this. When we think of the word bitter in terms of male and female perspective, we tend to go with women being bitter. And we don't really kind of think about men being bitter. But as you listen to the show and maybe listen to other men speak, does it sound sometimes that we're being bitter, or men are being bitter in our conversations?
Yeah, you do sound a little bitter. Like you're still holding on to those old grudges and things that happened in these other relationships. And then they're kind of putting it towards the women, but it takes two. So but why are you still holding on to it? Because we women, we got to move forward. It may not have worked then. Of course, you got to hold on to that for a little bit because you don't want to go back into that again. But you still have to move forward. So some men, they just don't get in no more relationship. I don't want a relationship because this is what happened to me back in such and such time. But you might have had the wrong woman at that time. But there are a lot of other ones out there just waiting on that man to come and, come their way.
Okay, and I like that because I'm happy to hear that. Not that it didn't exist, but that's why I want to have this conversation, and that's why I title it "Finding a Common Ground" because I believe there are a lot of men that want to be with good women, and a lot of good women want to be with good men. For some reason, we're not making that connection. We're not there. And speaking about the bitterness, I hear that sometimes too. I must say I do because I think a lot of times it shapes us to where how we move forward. In a sense, it doesn't really allow us to move forward because we're moving forward with one leg tied behind to the past. We're not
Hmm.
looking forward to the future. And a lot of times we are, men are guilty of this. Most of the times we speak when on the show, speak about the woman is doing such. But a lot of time as men, we're guilty of trying to prevent things from happening that happened in the past. So we're real defensive in a sense, and we're kind of looking at things in a jaded sense, and we're kind of trying to not fall back in to what happened in the past. And I always look at it like this: when you start fresh, when you start new with someone, you should kind of have basically a clear view. Anything from the past should not be brought in mentally, and it's
Right.
just it should be a clear palette to paint on and not bring things in. I know that's easier said than done, but I want to get your reaction to it.
Yes, exactly. You got to get over that what you had the last time. So who wants to go on a date and all you do is talk about your ex all the time? So you got to make sure you've gotten her out of your system, and if she's gotten her ex out of her system, if you're willing to move forward. But then also you got to look at, when men decide to date or go out with a woman, you got to be sure that, you got to make it clear what you're going out for. Why are you selecting this lady? And, you they want to know, why are we dating, or what are you looking forward to in the future? You might say, well, I'm just looking for somebody to hang out with. I'm not really looking for a serious relationship. So, you have to come to an agreement with that when you look at this certain person, because she may be looking at, I'm looking for a mate, a serious mate, and you're just looking for somebody to hang out with because you've been so hurt that you don't want to be tied down again to that, but you still want companionship. So you have to make it clear as to what you want. So you may just want somebody to hang out with, somebody to spend time with, someone you just want to have relations with, or are you looking for somebody to marry?
Here's an interesting point about that, and I think a lot of times when people first meet, they're not honest.
Right.
They're really not. I think if you take an average man and you put him in a situation with an average woman, they're just meeting.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it all goes wrong in a lot of situations. And I agree with you. You should say it was there. But in reality, a lot of women are looking at a man when they first meet him, especially if they're a little older,
Mm-hmm.
as a potential of being a husband.
Yeah. Who wants to
Okay.
date their life?
I understand. Now I flip it over to the man.
Mm-hmm.
He's not looking at her as a potential wife.
See, you got to make that point clear.
Yeah, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
But so she's sitting there evaluating, and
Mm-hmm.
he's basically, and I don't want to, go too much on the visual, but this is really the reality.
Mm-hmm.
What brings the man mainly to her is her visualness.
Right.
So when he comes there, he's coming there based on that, and he's probably trying to get to know you to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not walking up to you in the supermarket thinking that you're his future wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it starts right there, the disconnect. Because she's looking at one thing, she wants one thing, and he's looking at something totally different. Of course, if he's looking at it visually, he's starting to think sexual.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to think it. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's the mindset of a man. And I
Yeah.
think what happens when men and women they start at that initial starting gate, he's focused on that, she's focused on this. Now they're both trying to get to their goal,
Right.
but their goal is not common between the two.
Right. Because you know what you like, and you know what you're going to look at, because you know what you like. And then if you want to speak to her, oh, why are you speaking to her? Oh, for one thing, like you said, outer appearance. And then if you speak to her, let's see what kind of tone she has. Okay, is she gentle? Is she nice? Or, is she a meanie? Or, is that the type of person you want to be around? And if you decide that, okay, she's pretty cool. Maybe you strike a conversation, find out they're single or whatever, and if you want to spend time together, go out somewhere, have some coffee, or just meet somewhere. That can be the next step. Then after that, then you have to see where you two are going in life. What is her goals? What is your goals? Why you want to date? Why you want to hang out?
Okay, now here's a not $1 million question, but maybe it's $250,000 question.
Mm-hmm.
Based on, I'm coming to the woman's side here when I say this, and I heard what you said earlier. You don't want to date necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but isn't that a strong thing to be thinking? Just when someone just says hello to you, how are you, and struck up a conversation, or you go on the first date, you're thinking so long term of marriage.
Well, at the first date, no, because they may not be marriage material or something you're even looking for, especially after the conversation, because you don't know what their mindset is like. So, I think it depends on the type of date you are on and the conversations that you have. Usually in talking and conversation, you kind of can make up your mind. Okay, is this a person cool enough for me to bring around my family, or you know, or are they just good enough for me to just be with privately? So, after, your first initial, I guess, meetup, where the next step will go. Thank
Well, okay. So, at what point, from her perspective, let's say the first date go well,
you.
it goes smashingly well. They have a good time. He's on his best behavior, so to speak.
Yes.
He opens the door, he does this, everything is great. So,
Yeah.
at what point in her mind can she start to think he's husband material?
When she asks him,
And what is she gonna ask? That's the question. She's gonna ask, "Well, are you husband material?" That's what she's
yeah,
gonna ask.
Gary, are you looking to get married or something? What's the future look like? Or are we just going to be cordial friends like this forever? So, people want to know. I know men want to know. Women want to know. We don't want to waste each other's time.
Okay, I hear that. I like that. So you would say by the towards the second date, that question, if she's thinking that should be put to him, correct?
Well, yeah, it depends on how she put it. She's like, look, now, if we're gonna be hanging out like this here, I need to know because I'm looking for my boy, and I don't want to be you to be, in the way of him. If that's all we're gonna be is just friends. So we just need to understand that if we're just gonna be going out and hanging out together as friends, that's good. But mind you, this that if someone comes to me and they're giving me the things that I want to hear, and that may be our last time we hang out together because you might have to go another way.
Okay. Now, what will be the things that you want to hear?
And what?
Well, you said, mind you, if someone comes along, let's say you and a gentleman are dating, hanging out casually, someone came along, they said the things you wanted to hear.
Well, you might say, look, I'm looking for a wife, or I'm not looking to play no games and things. I'm serious. Not. I don't want to have a girlfriend forever. So we can work on this and see where we both are leading. That is that. And he might ask, is that what you're looking for as well? Because you have some women that have been married and don't want to get married again. So that answer can be, given at the time too.
It's interesting when I hear you say that, I chuckle a little bit, and I because this is where I think where things go a little different for men
Mm-hmm.
and women, and I agree with that to an extent when you
Yeah.
said they're saying the things you want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
but if a man is shrewd enough
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, Bill.
he understand that's what you want to hear,
Yeah.
saying that doesn't mean anything. It,
Right.
it gets your attention as a possibility. And
Right.
let's be honest, men have been saying that to women forever. It's nothing new. So
Yeah.
my point is when he comes along, and I'm just going with what we're speaking here. He comes along, or he comes along here. I'm looking for a wife, and I'm gonna be honest about this.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of men are not. I don't care what they say.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking for a wife. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. Men don't. We don't go looking for wives like we go shopping for cars. We just don't. Most of the time, a man, and I know people. It's been said, a man that finds a good one finds a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Until he realizes you're a good woman and you're a fit for him,
Mm-hmm.
he's not thinking about you as being a wife. I don't care what comes out of his mouth. I'm
Wow.
being honest. I just don't care. And that's where the woman tends to bite, and that's that lure. So if he knows you're basically looking for a rib steak and he
Mm-hmm.
brings a rib steak to you,
Mm-hmm.
you're coming towards the rib steak. And
Mm-hmm.
then later when it doesn't work out, you're feeling a certain way. And
Yeah.
I say that to say, and I'm gonna pull back a little bit. I say that to say because that's easily to say to someone. It's
Yeah.
easy to get that into their emotional vibe to say, I'm looking for, I want this, blah, 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 blah. I remember I used to be on online dating, and
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like men will read women basically their profiles, and then they will make up their profile.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making their profile up to match what you want in your profile. And some women on profiles have profiles about 3 days long. And he got to be this, he got to be that, he got to wear this, and he can't do this, he can't. So they read, so they look at that. It's like playing a game.
Yeah.
And then you go opposite, and
Yeah.
there it starts. So
Yeah.
your reaction to that?
Oh yeah. I've known men that you're right. They say that thing. Oh, I'm looking for a wife. You know, good and darn well they ain't looking for no wife. They just looking for the next best looking thing that they can find to put on their arm. Because after a while, like you said, if you're hanging out with this man who says he wants a wife, and you see that he's not preparing himself for a wife, to have a wife, then that's your red flags right there. Because there are some, then they'll have those excuses. Oh well, she's got kids, and uh, I don't think I want to raise nobody else's kids, and well, but you knew this when you met her. So it was just that you saw something that you wanted, and that you used your conquer to get her. But so that's where all those lies come in. But I know a lot of men has done that, and they still use that line. Oh, they looking for a wife. Well, if this one will be the one, you think you marry? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, but she's got to do this and she's got to do that. Well, what about you? You're the one that's supposed to be preparing everything for a home, for a wife, for a family. That's what they're looking for, security. When they do get a husband, you want some security in your husband to make sure that everything is set for them. But like you said, a lot of men are not looking for that. So they play those games. And after a while, between 6 months, you should know how you feel about this person when you're going out with. Is there for real?
Okay.
Or what?
So at the 6 month point, okay, you should know. You said something I want to definitely come back to because I think I like it. I like it when you said it, and you said that he should be prepared
Mm-hmm.
and have basically done some things. Elaborate on that a little bit more because what should he prepare for? What things he should have been doing? Because realistically, this should speak to the woman more so than when the words are coming out of his mouth should be speaking to her. So I wanted to go into that a little more deeper, please.
Right. Basically, look at his lifestyle. Does he have a steady lifestyle? Does he have his own place? Is he still living with his parents? It's okay sometimes to me, especially day and age. If you're still living at home with your parents, but are you preparing to get your own things? And you know, and also if you're not with your parents, or if you don't have a roommate, because some men, they have roommates that are male. I'm talking about men, and they are preparing for the next step in life, but they're just trying to save some money. So you got to look at that if they're preparing for other things in life. Or how's their credit? And are they working? How long have you been on this job? You know, it's all attitude and how you approach life. You got to look at that in a man.
Okay. I'm
Hmm.
love we're having this conversation earlier. Yeah, Miss I'm loving this, because a lot of
Yeah,
times, a lot of times men and women speak and they talk about each other, but they don't talk to each other. And they
yeah.
spend a lot of time basically, speaking to other men. And
Hmm.
we don't get a chance to basically speak with men. Our women don't get a chance to speak with each other because a lot of times when you're with someone in a relationship, a lot of times you're trying to tiptoe and not say the wrong thing.
Uh-huh.
And you're basically, a lot of times, don't people, they can be in a relationship for a long period of time and don't truly honestly communicate. They
Yeah.
don't. They don't know what the other person is feeling or thinking, so they're reacting to what they think they're thinking, and they're not having that straight, hardcore conversation. So I love the fact that we're taking time out to do this. And basically, as I said, in a sense, we're doing it to find common ground. And
Mm.
it's interesting because I listened to the things that you said he's preparing. And in a way, I hear you said about he should have his own place, all that. And I'm not knocking at that. But I will say, if you come across a brother, I know times are hard. Don't get me wrong. I do. I would think twice if he's still home with mommy. I would think twice if he still has her. I'm just being honest. That's just me. I would think twice. Now, but to me, this is one thing I don't hear women say when they're kind of evaluating a man to be what they may want to be a husband, because that's kind of the primary reason a lot of women choose to date for the most part.
Mm.
But are they looking at the character of the man? Because you
Right.
don't, but that word doesn't come out, Miss Jenora. It does. I don't hear that. I hear, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, he has that, he has this.
Hmm.
But where does the character of a man comes out? When is that important? When is that crucial?
Oh, that's definitely crucial when you're dating them. Like I said, you should know about 6 months whether you want to deal with this person anymore or not. You should see all his characters, most of his characters, and his flaws or some of that temperament you might show up. You need to know if they're quick tempered or the easygoing, and characters one of the main things that kind of keep your relationships together. So you got to look at kind of everything, kind of the well-rounded person, you know.
Okay, I just when I hear a lot of times women speak, I don't even hear that word come up. I
Right.
really don't. When they're speaking of a potential a person, they speak of all. To me, I'm not going to say it's superficial, but in the way it is, when you say about and don't get me wrong, good credit score is great. It is, but I can't see myself coming across a woman and within knowing her for a short period of time, I'm thinking about her credit score. I'm thinking more about the goodness of her heart, who she is as a person,
Oh yeah.
what's really underneath her, what makes her tick, what makes her think, how
Yeah.
she respond, is she nurturing?
Right.
Those some things I'm thinking about. And a lot of men, and if you're looking for a woman to be good, those are some qualities you're looking for. Now, if you're looking for someone to basically just hang out with you into the physical attraction, none of that stuff matters. But I
Right.
find it interesting. I do. I find it interesting where when just as yourself, when women speak, a lot of it seems to revolve around financial. It
Yeah.
does. It's because that comes out first. That
Uh-huh.
comes out first. The finance comes out first. Now you tell me if I'm on the wrong track, and I'll try to get on the right track. But is that what you hear as well? When women kind of looking at a man, he could basically, let's just say he shows up in
Hmm.
rough looking clothes, and they
Yeah.
automatically assume he's not making a lot of money. So I think character. I'm not saying it's not there, even though it's not spoken, but they're looking more so financially first, and then everything else follows. Your response.
Well, look, not all men, can dress well. Some of them, just don't know how to dress. So that's when we women come in and if they allow us to put on something that we
Oh
like,
boy, oh
and
boy.
allow us to dress them, because a lot of women they like to do that. They like to dress their men up because some men just don't know what to wear. So, but it doesn't really mean that they're broke. Some of them just don't know how to dress. But like you said, if you're into them, you can find out, like you said, their character, what they're into and what they're not into. Because some men some men don't care about clothes that much, and how impressive they are to you and how they look. But another thing that just crossed my mind about talking about being super, I guess more like being superficial. But you got to look at these men that look at these women, their financial, they have themselves together. A lot of these men are trying to get with the women that do have themselves together, even though they're not. So that's a pull on these women as well, because we really don't want to be taking care of these men that don't have themselves together. That's why I say, you have your own place. Are you looking to get your own place? Because why would a man want to be staying with a woman and then they want to be the boss of everything? and they didn't start nothing, so you can't be the boss over nothing that I have.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why, or maybe one of the reasons why I hear a lot of women always bolster, "I'm independent. I don't
Hmm.
need," I think part of that goes to being hurt in the past and you're just kind of like trying to cover some things up. But I can understand that because, why would you want to basically put yourself in a situation where someone comes in and take advantage of such that basically did nothing to contribute? And
Hmm.
yeah, she need to be on guard for that. I want to swing it back a little bit to basically, our conversation we had a little while ago, because, it was pretty good in a sense where, we talked about the bitterness and we've
Hmm.
got it. You touched on the maturity in a sense. And when you say a lot of times that they're kind of stuck being in a 25-year-old sense. And that's, when a lot of men hear that, it's going to take them a while to understand that. I
Yeah,
do. Yeah. And now it's going to hurt, but
yeah,
and that's, it is what it is. If the truth hurts sometimes,
yeah.
so I get that. Now, is that something, would you say is your perspective, or that's some perspective that a lot of women carry?
I think it's my perspective. I've heard some women kind of repeat the same things, but then you got to look at how they grew up. Or they grew up in single family homes, just one parent, or did they grow up with a father, or is the father involved in their life? Um, some to most families now, they were together, but they're not together. And these men, when the men were, excuse me, the boys, maybe they may have been in their teen years or younger when the parents split up, and so they really don't have that male person to look up to show them things, to tell them how to act and what to do. So most of the time they're kind of acting like females because they're living with females. So you got to look at that character as well.
Okay. Here's something I find to be interesting
Mm-hmm.
because, we talk about men and women, meeting, and this kind of goes back to that a little bit. And we talk about this a lot in the show, in a sense where what men are basically coming across is a lot of women, in a sense, are acting masculine. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And I'll ask why. That's the question. Why is it that, because a man is masculine himself, a real man that is built in structure in a masculine sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what he desires. So
Mm-hmm.
if he's come across that several times and realized that's not what he wants, why is she taking on the masculine role?
Because she has to, because there's no man in the house. There's no man around, so you have to. A female, especially if she's out on her own, she has to play the role for two people, for herself, and as if there's a male in her life. So she's kind of have to take that attitude too, to try not to get overrun. And so some men don't like that. They think they're being too strong. Women are being too strong. But it's the end of the day. We the decisions are made that we made. It falls on us. So we can't look like we're so naive that see the we can't see the picture on the wall. But we have to take care of business sometimes. So, and that's when the men tell me, "Oh, you're doing too much," or, "Why you acting like this and like that?" So, if we gave it to the man to do, it's okay if the men do it. But when we do it, oh, it's just too hard. You're being too hard. You're being too mean. You're being too, But end of
Okay.
the day, we got to take care of business.
Okay. Now, in the order of a relationship where he's supposed to lead, if I'm correct in saying so, which I fully believe that I am,
Hmm.
is that allowing him to lead?
It'll allow him to lead if he's going to lead. Now, if you're just going to be somewhere there temporary, mm, that's when that question comes in. But that's when those conversations come up. What kind of relationship do you want to have? What type of man are you looking for? I need somebody that's secure in themselves, that's going to take the lead and being a family man. Because I don't want to have to do everything by myself. So we need those secure men around.
Now, let's say this. Well, I'll say this. I don't like saying let's say this, so I'll say this. Now, some of this stuff sounds good in theory. It does. It sounds great in theory. And I agree with it. I do agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what a lot of men speak from, and when they say this, they have probably been in previous situations and
Mm-hmm.
they've seen current and previous situations
Mm-hmm.
where they're not given the opportunity to lead because she wants to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of times women will say, "No, I don't want the control," but
Mm-hmm.
their actions
Mm-hmm.
states that they want to be in control. And
Well,
so, I'm
they've
sorry.
done
Go ahead.
they've done it for so long. Sometimes it's hard to give up control. I can't trust you with my control until I see that you know what you're doing with it. You got to have my best interest at heart. What would I do? So I need you to think like that, not just with what you would do because it's testosterone acting most of the time. Just showing that you're the man and you can make these decisions, but you're making decisions for both people. It's more like when you do get married, you you decide on who's going to take on the role of what. Find your who has the strength on this and who's weak on this. So you both you work together to make sure that everything works together. So when you have men and women in those type of relationships and they say that women are being too strong, that might be her strong point, and you may have to use that because you might be too weak in that area, and that's where she's strong in that area. So if it's working for you, let it work.
Good point. If it's working, I'll
Hmm.
roll with that. But what happens when it's proven that it's not working? Because sometimes, and I want to go back a little bit before you address that, because like you said, she's used to doing it.
Hmm.
Now, I get that, to an extent.
Hmm.
But when you come across someone, you want to be, here it is, you want a husband.
Hmm.
We'll go back to that. When she says, I want a husband, these are the things that you get when you want a husband. It ain't all about sitting up watching Netflix, eating
Right.
popcorn, and doing these things. You get a man that basically, because a husband should see one you allowed to lead, you trust to lead.
Yeah.
So here it is. It's like almost like many different sides of a coin. So if you're choosing this person of their character, not
Mhm.
based on their finances, here we go with that again,
Yeah.
and you believe they're of good quality, good character, and they could be your husband. Now, when he's trying to lead,
Hmm.
why is it that it's a struggle for him?
I don't know. Maybe he's not used to making sound good decisions. So I don't know why it's a struggle for him. If he's secure and confident of what the decisions that he has to make, I don't know why it should be a struggle.
But
I know
it,
sometimes women we have to give up the reins, and sometimes like, oh, I hope I can trust him with this because I hope he don't mess this up. Because sometimes you have to just wait and see the outcome. I know sometimes it's hard for some of us women to give it up, but we have to wait and see the outcome if they can handle these situations.
yeah, I think, and I understand that could be tough. I really do. But I
Hmm.
think, and it's what I find to be ironic about that is that from a man's perspective, we see women give those reins to men that don't belong giving it to.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And now they'll give it to him easily.
Hmm.
He has shown no reason for him to have it.
Hmm.
Then they'll get with a man that deserves it.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
can't, and he can't get close. He,
Right.
he can't get close because they're still living on the past,
Uh-huh.
and they don't accept that they made a bad decision. That was a
Hmm.
bad choice. So they're still carrying that with the new man that can do such. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, there goes the reason why they can't allow him to be in control because
Hmm.
they're still living off the knucklehead that they dealt with. And they knew when they first gave him the ring, he was a knucklehead.
Yeah.
And they're basically now are not allowing this new man or the man in their life that give him the opportunity. And so therefore,
Well,
I'm
you
sorry,
have
go ahead.
most of the time when you have women like that, and then when they change and they have to deal with someone else, he got to prove himself that he's gonna do better than the last one did. Because I'm quite sure they've already told him what their situation was in the past, and he may say, "Hey, I could do better than that." That's when he lays out his plan on what he can do and what he can't do. So if she doesn't want to see that scenario all over again, she's going to listen to someone that's going to give a better plan.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of men basically are coming up against and speaking out about is because they're not feel like they're given the opportunity to basically be the man.
Hmm.
And realistically, some men can settle with that. Some men can settle for that and go, okay. But And realistically, if you're who you are as the man, it's not going to feel good when you can't be the man.
Right.
And there's different roles we must play, but at the same time, there's a role of a man. There is. And I know you spoke earlier, which is true. There are a lot of men that weren't raised and they have that side of their emotional side. And it almost seems, you tell me if I'm wrong here, but that kind of man he seems more attractive to a lot of women than the man that basically has been raised,
Mm-hmm.
self-assured, confident, can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed like he comes across being less attractive. True or false, in your opinion?
Less attractive. Uh yeah, they can be. Because like you said, if you're looking at their background and then you see why they act the way they do, okay, there's no man in their picture. There hadn't been a male in their picture. But you also have to look at, some men, they still want to be the alpha man, but then they don't have the means to be the alpha man. So I'll give you one scenario. Well, say there's we have these men that may have been incarcerated and they come out, but they want the world, just about. They want everything. They want a house, they want a wife, they want all this and stuff. But it's hard for you to get a job now. When you do hook up with a woman, she's already established and has her own things. But then you want to be the one, you still want to be the man that I want to be the one to bring home the bacon. I want to be the one to get the house. I want to get, but if you care about this person and if she's caring about you, you can work together and get things together. But a lot of times, some of these men, their ego is too big to accept help from a woman who wants to help.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No, I think that's true. That's true because a lot of times we have to know where we are in life. We have to know our
Right,
limitations and
right.
be honest with that. And we do. A lot of men oversell who they are, where they
Yeah.
are. They do.
Mm,
They oversell it, and I think it's for women, you have to be a quick reader to see such.
yeah.
And that's why don't go by the words, go by the
Hmm.
character, go by what you really see.
Uh huh.
Because a lot of men will oversell it. I'm sorry, if no against nothing against brothers that come out of jail, but brother, what can you really do coming out of jail? Not
Right.
much.
Right.
It's going to take you a while, but at the
Yeah.
same time, what's expected of him coming out of jail? I mean, and that's where a lot of times, if you're in that situation, the
Hmm.
expectations. But you're right, men. They're in certain situations and they come out and have these big ideas and dreams are nice. I go to sleep, I like to dream them, but
Hmm.
sometimes dreams don't get fulfilled. We could
Hmm.
dream all day, and sometimes they never get reached. So we
Hmm.
have to deal more so in reality. We have to
Hmm.
kind of harness ourselves more in reality and be realistic. And a
Hmm.
lot of times, dreams bring along a lot of false expectations.
Right.
And I think in relationships and period, I think a lot of relationships go bad because we start off with false expectations. We're
Yes.
expecting one thing and we get something else. And when that doesn't materialize into what we thought it was going to be, we're
Hmm.
ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's something my mother used to say to me a long time ago. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And
Yes.
sometimes old folks said things to you, and I won't call my mother old, but realistically, they say some things to you at a time in your life you don't totally understand it. In
Right.
a sense, you kind of think about, go, well, why would I throw the baby out?
Mm.
Period. But
Yeah.
realistically,
All those
sometimes
metaphors.
exactly. But sometimes I think we're in situations where a little more nurturing, a little bit more massaging, it can turn
Mhm.
into a good relationship. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes we come in with such high and false expectations that
Yes.
we're off to a bad start, and we basically don't know how to clean it up from there. And
Right.
I said earlier, I think men come in, we're not really necessarily looking for the most part for a wife, but when we decide that we may want to have her as our wife, I think a lot of us as men, from a male perspective, I think we come into false expectations right then and there. We believe
Yeah.
she should be doing X, Y, and Z. She should be doing this. She should be doing that. And she should
Yeah.
have that. And again, we're not looking, same thing I said about her. We're not looking at her for who she is as a woman,
Mhm.
what she's been through. And
Mhm.
realistically, that's something I want to touch on because a lot of men feel this. A lot of times, and I said earlier, women will spend time with knuckleheads. They'll spend time with guys that basically they should have been spending no time with, in my opinion. Now you come across them, they want you to deal with the leftover garbage and baggage from that until they get it right.
Yeah,
I don't think that's right or fair. Your response.
yeah, because that's like holding them hostage until they get it right. So, no, you're gonna stay until I get it right. No, no, no. This is when you go and say, hey, you get it, you get yourself together, and when you do, call me if I'm around. You know, because I don't think men should do that to women because they don't need to be waiting on some men to get it together when you have someone who's got themselves together trying to pursue you. And even though, you want to wait on them, but like I said, they got that's that 25-year-old mind sometime. They still want to go out there and woo, 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 and think you're still going to be waiting on them. And no, that's not the case. Most of the time, it's not. And then they get upset because, oh, well, you use this and use that. And that's when women start becoming all these other names and stuff, just because they went somewhere else and didn't wait on them.
I'm gonna turn that a little bit because what men are speaking on is that women are coming in with the baggage. That she was with this, she could have been in a bad marriage, she could have been this, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Now he should be more understanding. He should be more willing to basically wait till things get better. And why should, and now it's just my opinion, why should I do that if there's other options I don't have to do that with?
Right. You waiting on things to get better with her, for her attitude to soften.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's the if you can respond to that, because I think for a lot of men that's what they're up against.
That's
They,
more like a challenge. It sounds like to me.
I'm
That's when
sorry.
they like that. They're like, "Oh, that's a challenge. Oh, I'm still get that. Yeah, she hard right now, but I'm gonna wait till she soften up. What you waiting on her for? There's all these other women out there that just waiting on.
Beautiful. Yes. No, I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
agree. Yeah, because people are who they are, and whatever you dealt with in the past, you have an opportunity to make it better for your future if you choose to. If you choose
Yes,
to work on it and do something about it, it could be better.
it's supposed to be a learning curve there somewhere.
Absolutely. No, it should be. I got to, we have a sponsor. I got to, give them a little bit of time here. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you the question now. When I come back, give you a chance to think about it a little bit. And I'm sure you ain't got to think too long about it because you probably already know. But
Okay.
if I was to say to you, what do women desire from men?
Okay.
I want to hear that when I come back. But in the meantime,
Uh-huh.
I want to kind of do this. Do you love podcasts? Have you ever thought about creating your own podcast? What are you waiting for? Get started at podup.com. Podup is one of the sponsors of this podcast, and they would love to someday sponsor yours. Starting as easy as creating an account at podup.com today. Podup has everything you need to run a full professional show with 35 different tools with AI integration. Get a 7-day trial with no credit card required and 15% off with the code when Black Men Talk 15. Don't have time to start a podcast? Check out podallies.com. Get a team of professionals to do all your website, social media, and editing work for your podcast. Pod Allies is an agency run by the folks who built the Pod Up podcasting software. Get started with them at podallies.com. Get 15% off when you sign up today at Pod Up or Pod Allies with code when Black Men Talk 15. Pod Up and Pod Allies can't wait to create with you and launch your podcast. Well, Miss Jenora, well, thank you for being here. But this is the question of the question of the question. What are
Mm-hmm.
women currently desiring from men?
I think they're desiring some men to be honest and with their feelings and what they're coming to the table with. So they're looking for people, yeah, basically meant to be honest about their situations and what's going on and what they really want to do in life. So they're looking for men with that has a future, some type of future that they can offer if they want to be with these certain women. Because like I say, I know there are quite a few men that they get these women that they come up with all these lies and stuff. Oh, I'm looking for somebody to really settle down with, but they're really not, and they hold up their time, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And some women say, well, I'm gonna give him 5 years. He ain't married me by then. I'm gonna go up. But that's 5 years you don't waste it. And you should have just 6 months to a year. You should have known better. But so we're just looking for more men to be honest and say what they mean and mean what they say. What do you
Hmm.
think?
No, I like that. I like that. Other than I like that men always should be honest when it comes down to dealing with someone that you care about. Let's face it. Yeah, I get that. Only thing that I think that from a male perspective, when I hear that, and here again, with men and women, we kind of date for different things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most men, look at it a time clock and go, okay, I've been knowing you for 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
I must execute this. I do. And I know to a woman, she may look at it, okay, we've been together for X amount of time. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Now she has to make a decision. I understand that. But I don't if everything is rolling correctly, let's say they are definitely there, why does the time matter so much?
Well, certain women, we have a time clock here. If you want to have children, we got to work out, a time that we're going to do that. We may be together, maybe give yourself a couple of years, 5 years or so, spend time together, make sure you do everything you want to do just together before you start a family, because that together time is no more when you start a family. You still have it, but you got to squeeze it in every now and then just to have a date night. So, time depends on the years that you guys or that men or women are getting together. It is a time frame. Now you got to look at some of these men that are looking at these women. Some of them we need to look at their own age bracket, because a lot of them are looking at these younger women, and you're wasting their time because all you're gonna be is a sugar daddy to them if you're at least 15 years older and than these younger women are, because they're not looking to marry you and you're not looking to marry them. So it's a time thing.
Okay. Let's take it out of the realm of her able to have kids. She's past that stage in her life. She has kids. She come
Hmm.
across a gentleman
Hmm.
and they've been dating for 2 years.
Hmm.
And for the most part, I could understand her asking him and they talking about it.
Hmm.
And let's say he say to her, realistically, I don't feel that, there's some things we need to work on for us to take that step. How should she handle that?
We'll find out what you're talking about, what you're going to work on. Is it financially? Is it physically? Or just your own mental mindset of things that you see that you don't like, or things that you can work on to make better? Or how does she feel about it? It's a conversation that you need to have. If neither one is willing to work on that, then maybe you're wasting your time.
Now, let's say, either or. Let's say she brought that to him and he basically, she said, I feel a certain way about you, but in order for us to really take that step, this are some things I think that we should kind of work on. And he basically doesn't see the need to do so.
Hmm.
Realistically, is he saying to her, take me as I am, just marry me anyway?
Yep. Just
Okay.
love me, or more or less saying, well, love me or leave me. What you gonna do? Because I done
Okay.
told you I won't.
Now,
Listen,
now let
I'm
me
not.
let
But
me.
whatever.
I'm I'm sorry. Now let me see. Let me kind of add this to the mix because this is what most men believe, whether it's true or false. And a lot of times, men are in situations where if things ain't right and they try to get it right, okay, they look at it and they can make up their mind. But the back of a mind of a man, a lot of times we believe the woman that you date is not the same woman you're going to marry.
Hmm. Why is that?
Because they tend to change once they stand there in that wedding dress. That's what a lot of men believe,
Oh,
and it's what has happened, Miss Jenora. Is what has
oh,
happened where a lot of men have realized the woman I dated and the woman I married are two different people. And what
well,
happens when a woman tends, this is what we believe and what we
uh-huh.
experience. Now, I can't say I experienced that, when I got married. I can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some of that early on in the beginning, and I spoke to her about it, and she did change. So I'll give her that. So, but what happens is, I think what we believe is that once she gets to that point, there's a sense of security. You ain't going anywhere. I have you. So I can do, she pulls back and I could do what I want. And it doesn't matter anymore if you don't like it or not. And a lot of men are afraid for that reason. And a lot of times they may not say it, they may not verbalize it, but if they see that quality there, they're going to be real reluctant to basically move in that direction. Your reaction to it.
Oh, well, usually, when couples are together, they get married, you're still growing. You're still getting older. You don't keep that mindset you had when you first was at the altar. Your mindset is not there forever. I mean, just the way that you thought. You should be growing together as a couple. So what you're saying, some things you see later on in the future, well, it's not the same as when we got married. No, because I done got older and I've moved on from that. Some things you move on for the better, but then maybe you don't like the better that I may have thought something that I was doing back then was just a beginning of my lifetime, and it was just the now moment. And then when I move on to progress to something else, and you have a problem with it. But is that going to be the problem for the whole marriage? Because men change and women change, and you do get older, and you do experience different things as you grow older. So you still together. Remember, you when you married, you're one. Ah, remember that you're one, and you do have to take that whatever experiences a male has and a female has. You grow together and you talk about things. But remember, you are one. You made that vow that you're going to stay together. Even though you said richer or poorer, who wants to marry a poorer? Who wants to be?
Hey, back to finances again. Back to finances again. But
I guess still, you say those things, but you really, you know, oh yeah, we're getting married, but yeah, I'm richer. We're gonna be poor together, yeah. And whatever you say, and all this stuff, and then as you get married, I said, you've been together. Wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up. Yes, you did.
you know that.
Yes, you.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang on to this question, but I'm gonna go back to what you said because you're saying people change, and granted, people do change,
Hmm.
but I want to drive this fact home. They're saying they change; they're not the same person to the point to where their attitude has changed, the way they treat you has changed, the way they want to be in control has changed, to where it makes it uncomfortable to basically be around this person.
Something had to happen between that time for the attitude to change, and somebody just didn't catch it. Right. It let that slide for so long till it's done got so annoying. So you just done changed. Well, I've been changing the whole time. Now it's a problem.
I I hear you. I hear you, but I'm telling you, I think a lot of times they get to they call the getting over that hump, the finish line. So once they're there, and I think people realistically realize if when you can't do nothing about it. And a lot of times when people are dating, I don't care how long it is, they're not showing their true selves. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. They're showing you what they don't want you want to believe, what they tend to believe that's going to get you where they want you to go. But I want to
Uh-huh.
go back to what you said about the about you become one, and
Mm-hmm.
that's say you become one. Now that says a lot. And but I'm looking at the day when because you just say richer or poorer. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the majority of people that get married can go back and recite their vows.
Right.
I just don't think can.
If
So
they
so my
say that,
point, yes. So my point is, if you got married and you can't recite that, where's the map you all two living by? Where's the map? I'm just trying to figure out how that happens.
well, look, they get married. They just take those initial vows and just move on with it. Some people do go through their vows before they do get married. They agree to some things and some things they don't. And sometimes they'll add their own or they'll say their own. This is what we're going to do. This is why I'm marrying you. We're going to grow together. Because if you really found the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, supposedly. You should have been looking at both sides, you know, the now and the later and the in between. And like I said, before you get married, you should have this game plan what you're going to do and how you're going to live your life. And you know, first of all, is God in it? You know, if God is in there, nothing should fail. You know, you're going to go through some rough spots, but still, you got to have the number one in there before you decide to, you know, tie the knot, because he's your number one guide. You don't tell everybody your business. You don't let everybody into your marriage. You got to look at your marriage as your own. So your marriage might not be the same as the next couple's marriage. It's whatever makes your marriage work. That's what keeps it.
No, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. But it's going back to when they forgot the vows. Things kind of get a little crazy. Yeah, I, I
You should
yeah,
have. Some people should have seen that. It's been in there, but you just didn't pay attention. Oh, she just acting like that. That. But what if she acting like that for about 5 or 6 months? Are you gonna be able to deal with that?
ooh,
So look at that.
yeah. I,
The signs and signals were always there, but you just didn't think that it's gonna. Oh no, you're just looking at. Oh, we're in love. We can
hmm.
go. We can go. We can get through that. That's just a temporary thing. But what if she has, like you said, like what if she happens to be like that, like more than a week, more than 2 weeks, 2 3 months done pass, and the whole attitude has done changed? You guys are like, wait a minute, what went wrong? What's going on?
Yeah. I want to we're going to kind of put a wrap on this in a little bit, but we're going to definitely continue and do some other shows. But this one's been good. I appreciate it. But marriage is something we could definitely talk about all day. But
Yeah,
it's ironically you hear a lot of people that are married that are griping and complaining, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I just think, as you said, when you come one,
yeah,
you should work hard. Both parties should work hard to make sure it works for
yeah,
both of you. And you
yeah,
shouldn't be selfish.
right,
And a lot of people get into it. A lot of people are in love with the idea of being married,
right,
but they're not in love with the idea of what it takes to stay married.
right.
And that happens a lot on both sides of the coin. Your response?
Yeah, yeah, because you got to check in with each other. Are we good? We need to work on something. You know, each year you have a anniversary. You start checking in with each other. Anything we can do different? Do I need to spice up some more, or do you? Maybe you need to spice up some more. Um, what are we doing? You know, you got to look at each other. If you love the other person, you care about the other person. You care how they feel. You care what they care about. You know, you're like I say, you're one now, and nowadays people are not staying together without maybe a month or 2 months. They thought, oh, she ain't right. You know, he ain't right. I'm gonna have to give this up. Now, I do believe that couples should not be together if this, you know, violence and all this stuff is going on, because next thing you know, that's not good for a marriage in the beginning. So, like, you need that counseling before, because you got to see what, like you said, the character makes a difference in a person. But you really need to talk that out before you start getting married. Start talking about marriage. You got to see what type of marriage you're going to have, what type of marriage you want, and you got to start, you know, thinking about your future together as a couple.
Well, there's a reason why they said marriage should not be entered too lightly.
That's right.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people hear that. They just don't. They start running out looking at the monkey suit, looking at the wedding dress, how many people are coming, what we're going to serve, and all that. And they
Hmm.
kind of forget that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because once it's over, the marriage begins.
yeah, isn't that something? That's something. Yeah, once they start cleaning up the facility,
Uh-huh.
now the real stuff happens. Miss Jenora, I want to thank you for coming on and doing what you did. I'm looking forward to future shows.
Oh, awesome! Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I like the perspective, I like the balance, and again, I like the fact that we get a chance to kind of basically say some things that people are thinking, and sometimes people you may not realize how foolish you are until
Hmm.
someone else brings it to your attention, man or woman. It's just what it is sometimes, and if you're honest with yourself and you hear that you're foolish, you got a little work to do. You got a little
You're
work
right.
to do.
You're right.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to accept it, but if they're your real friends, and they call out something on you, and you say, you're right. I need to work on that.
There,
That's growth right there. That's growth.
there it is. There it is. With that being said, we'll close the door to Elliott Loft, and we're getting together soon. It's
Okay.
Mark Elliott, Miss Jenora. We want to thank you for giving us the air. We'll get together soon. In the meantime, God loves you, and we love you too. Take care of yourself.
You too. Bye.